Right, so this is the Vermont Legislature's House Committee on Environment and Energy, and this afternoon we are going to hear a proposal of amendment from the chair of that House Agriculture Committee to H126. Welcome, Chair Durfee.
Thank you. Welcome. I am indeed David Durfee, Chair of the House Agriculture, Resiliency, and Forestry Committee. And I'm tempted to raise my voice because of the bin in the cafeteria.
It's pretty loud.
You can't hear me. Yeah.
That's the one drawback of our room.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, so thank you for having me in. And as the chair said, I'm bringing to you today a proposal for amendment to H126. And I had forwarded two different documents for you all to look at, and I'm not sure which would be handier to go through, but
I think that the one that the second one with the highlighted inserts would
okay. All right, so
text. But also maybe share a little bit of your process.
Yes, I will. So our committee was asked to take a look at and drive by, being the term of art, the bill. So we didn't have it in our possession. We took some testimony from some of the folks that you heard from representing the forestry community and forest products industry. We also heard from several representatives of the Forest Partnership, so Natural Resources Council, Nature, and then we heard from the Housing Conservation Board. Maybe that was it. We heard from we heard from a gentleman named Alan Thompson, who is the director of the Woodlands Association, but I think he was there not in that capacity, but just as an individual. We heard different perspectives from that set of witnesses, and asked them whether they could collectively come up with some language that would be acceptable to all of them, and that we then might present as an amendment to you. The sort of general purpose being to make sure that the concerns of those who work the lands in Vermont, landowners, are potentially going to be heard in the inventory and planning processes that are proposed in the bill. So there are three different instances of amendment, and none of them make substantive dramatic changes. It's all additional language. There's nothing proposed that would be deleted or replaced. So let me just then get to the language. Sorry, I was flipping through here and looking for yellow text and realized this wasn't printed on a color printer. So on page 2 of the 11-page document, which is draft number 1.1 at the top, to be sure there. So I would say, so collectively, these amendments address three different concerns that our committee heard. The first was an acknowledgement of the forest future roadmap process and the logical relationship between the managed forests, conservation, and the intrinsic role of the forest economy. So the language that's been added as finding number 5 on page 2 seeks to do that. It essentially reads that 2022 action results number 183 passed Forest Parks and Recreation with developing the Forest Future Strategic Roadmap. strengthen, modernize, promote, and protect the forest products sector, the greater forest economy, and promote the importance of healthy, resilient, and sustainably managed working forests that provide a diverse array of high-quality products now and in the future. So that's a finding. That's the first instance. And then there's some renumbering that you'll see. And then if you'll jump over to page 7 to look at the second instance, this was an acknowledgement that the role of conserved farms and working forests is critical to the state's long-term conservation strategy initiative. So there are a couple of things here. This is 2803, the conserved land inventory. Down in section B, subsection 1, adding the word or complement after maintain. And then at the end of the section 1, adding to complete the conserved land inventory and inform the comprehensive strategy in the conservation plan. So this is getting at the wish or the desire to show that there will be an opportunity to look at the definitions, at the specific types of conserved land, not just in the inventory stage, but in the planning stage. And then over on page 9, this now is in the plan, conservation plan 2804, down in subsection B1. Here, acknowledging that the planning process will allow for discussion on the conservation categories and any necessary modifications or definitions. Sorry, no, I jumped around to the wrong place there. That's what I just read. This third instance of amendment is to acknowledge that the role of conserved farms and working forests is critical to Vermont's long-term conservation strategy initiative. So again, on page 9, adding language that says, while continuing to conserve and protect Vermont's agricultural land, working forests, historic properties, recreational lands, and surface waters. That's added to B1. And then a little bit further down, there's a new subsection 4, recommendations to implement the vision and goals of this chapter while also enhancing the state's current investments and commitments to working lands, rural landowners, the broad conservation mission implemented by the Secretary and VHCB, including conservation of agricultural land, working forest, historic properties, recreational lands, and surface waters. That completes the amendment. And I'm happy to take your questions.
Representative Smith.
Thank you. Thank you, Representative. I'm looking at the amendment here, and I could be wrong, but I was once, but when I get divorced. Anyway, recommendations to increase equitable access to protected and conserved lands and land-based enterprises. Is that something that's part of the amendment, or is that part of the original bill?
That's the original bill.
It is. Okay. Okay.
We're just, which section are you on there?
Well, I'm looking at the amendment, the 2-page amendment.
It's in yellow. The changes are
It's 11 pages. You want 11 to, then I don't have a question.
Well,
I don't have a question.
okay. Are there other questions? Representative Sakowicz?
Yeah, thank you. Under the page on page 7, the short additions there. I just when this language was considered, did you have examples of what it might mean to complement the strategy, suggestions that might complement the core concepts? I'm just having it's not quite sure
what does that mean?
What does it mean? Yeah, essentially, what does this really mean?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that if I give you one answer, I don't want this to be taken as, well, that's what it would be, because it would be suggestions that might come up, but possibly possibly land that is used for grazing purposes. I think that idea was raised. Would that potentially be considered conserved land if it's not forest, but is also not farmed and nothing's sown or planted there, but lightly grazed meadowlands, sort of natural in their natural state. Again, I'm not suggesting that would be a category that would be added, but something that was sort of hypothetically, somebody asked about that.
Okay, that would just be my hesitation, would be to introduce a term that I don't have a good sense of what it would actually imply.
Yeah, well, I think that it's the intent here is to, I think the intent of the underlying bill as it currently exists, and please correct me if I'm misreading it, was to allow for that conversation to take place during the inventory process of the bill. So in 2803, but the suggestion would be not to limit it to the inventory, but also to the planning stage that comes later then.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
And I can try and get a better answer if you'd like. I'd be happy to.
Well, I mean, in the same section on lines 18 and 19, I would say that I would read it a little differently than what you've said. I mean, to me, it's just saying that we're going to use those definitions in the conservation plan. But inventory and inform the comprehensive strategy. Like, it's going to complete so we had complete the land inventory period. And you've added and inform the comprehensive strategy in the conservation plan, which it was always going to inform the comprehensive strategy in the conservation plan. So to me, it's just saying what we intended it. It's a little clarification of like, that's what we intended it to do. The word complement, I also had to look up and sort of think about and was left a little blank myself, Representative Sakowicz. So maybe we should follow up a little on that one and see what's meant by that. But I also think complement is enhance. So I got into the definition of it and I was like, okay, I don't mind enhancing the definitions or reinforcing them or completing them, which is what it really means. So complete, enhance, enforce. So I'm comfortable with it.
Not replacing, obviously, not negating,
right?
Not saying, oh, okay, well, we're not going to use that category.
Representative Pat.
I just want to say this addresses a number of concerns I heard at a Lamoille legislative breakfast recently from some foresters, including Representative Lipsky, who's a forester who I was sitting next to. And I think this, I felt what I told him at the time was I thought that what his concerns were addressed, but maybe not as overtly or obviously, and I think this probably does it.
Thank you.
And what is the status of this amendment with your group?
So we're not able to offer it as a committee amendment because we didn't have the bill. So it's going to be, I've asked anyone who's interested to let me know if they want to co-sponsor with me. So that's where it is right now. I don't know that it will include all members of the committee.
Representative Sibilia? Yeah,
that's a question.
That's an interesting idea. Representative Pat.
Folks at the end of the table.
Speak up.
Yeah, we got
Say that. We're going to say that to folks at that end of the table too. Yeah, sure.
One thought for this, for the sponsors, might be just you and our chair.
Have you already received interest from members of your committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some, but we could discuss that.
Yeah. Okay. We'll talk about that.
Otherwise, we probably want to have members from this committee as well, and then it kind of loses its impact. But just a thought.
Yeah.
Could be real impact if it were the two chairs.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for bringing this in at the middle of everyone's lunch hour.
I should have acknowledged that I was here during the lunch hour when I started, so thank you for taking the time.
Need to acknowledge. And Christy just realized it was lunch hour.
Good luck
You're right.
getting in the line out there.
With that, we will adjourn. I want to say that we do have we need to get back together as a committee to talk about the appropriations, Ways and Means Amendment to the bottle bill. So please, I'm going to be looking for an interstitial space for us to get together as a group again and have a discussion of those proposed changes. We didn't get to finish that conversation, and we need to do that.
After the fall.
Whenever there's a chance, it
Thank
could
you.
be after the floor. Thank you, Steve.
By Zoom, like 11:30.